Hey everybody, it is Saturday morning and it is absolutely beautiful out here today, and we are at peak flower at this point. And so I wanted to take a little bit of time and do a brief yard tour. We're not going to go around and do the whole yard. Well, we might, I don't know. Let's just get started and we'll see where we end up. But you can see my tiger lilies that I talk about so much are finally starting to bloom. We're getting those nice beautiful orange lilies. We've got the coneflower, echinacea are all in full bloom, so we got tons of flowers on that. Our pride and joy, we really need to move these to get them into some better light, are these lilies. I do not know the name of them. I always want to call them Casablanca, but I know that they're not Casablanca lilies. But they are absolutely stunning. Not only are the looks on these just absolutely incredible, but the fragrance is just out of this world. It's hard to describe the fragrance of these. When you come outside, that's all you smell. Just the whole entire yard smells like these lilies. Have another one down here. Just absolutely outstanding. So I'm going to be cutting these today. They're definitely at their peak and they're going to be starting to fade away after today. But right now, the fragrance on these is just amazing. Little Princess Sassafras coming home from wherever she's been. Just absolute true stunners. I really wish you could smell these. The fragrance is just out of this world. It really is just absolutely amazing. And it's so potent. These are just so fragrant. It's hard to describe. So those are our big exciting flowers. But you can see we've got the phlox are blooming. Everything's pretty much blooming. We're at peak bloom. As I said, we're not going to really get much more in the way of this as far as flowers go. From here on out, it's going to actually get less impressive as the summer goes on. And then by winter time, you won't even recognize the property anymore. It just looks barren wasteland, as do most places in the winter. So you can see our hostas are all pretty much winding down. It's tough to get everything all in bloom at their peak. So about a week ago is when the hostas were in full bloom and we had all that beautiful purple going on up there. But at that point, our tiger lilies had not yet started, so we couldn't really call it peak bloom yet. So here's more of these tiger lilies. Again, if anybody's interested, these little black bulbs you can see right there are the actual bulbs, and I've gotten millions of them. So if anybody wants any tiger lily bulbs, check my email down below and I can make arrangements with you. We can get some of those mailed off to you. And it looks like Princess Sassafras is going to walk around, have a little bit of a yard tour with us. I don't know if you can hear that. It's a rooster. It's a fancy rooster one of my neighbors has. So if you hear that weird sort of gobbling sound, that is actually a rooster. The bright yellow flowers are Rudbeckia, that is black-eyed Susan. It is the Maryland state flower. These are interesting. These big bushy green ones. Some people call these lady slippers, but there are other plants out there called lady slippers, and that gets kind of confusing. I think of these as balsam, or sometimes I think about them as like wild impatiens. They are a type of impatient, and they get little pods on them, and when you touch the pod, they're like hydrostatically charged, and they pop open and they blow the seeds everywhere, and they procreate really well. But they get pretty big and they make lots and lots of flowers. They grow really fast. It's just a really interesting plant. Almost could pass off as a weed if you weren't sure what you were looking at, right up until the time it starts flowering, and then it's pretty much immediately apparent that it's not in fact a weed. So everything's still looking good over here. Planters are looking good. This garden's kind of under transformation, and we actually sort of use this area down here as kind of a nursery. We get stuff started and dig it up and move it and that sort of thing. So we'll have to wait and see. Whatever these things are, do not seem to be doing well over here. Our hydrangea here is doing really well. We haven't had much in the way of flowers on this one in all the years it's been here, and so this year we get these gorgeous purple flowers on it, so that's exciting. Real briefly, we can have a look at the front porch, and you can see the petunias are going like crazy up there. And of course, as I've mentioned before, our Rose of Sharon trees are all in full bloom, so you got all these purple and white and pink flowers going on everywhere. This is more of the purple one. This is a type of hibiscus. Rose of Sharon is just the common name, but Rose of Sharon is actually hibiscus. And you can see, I mean, if you look down in the driveway, all these, they line the driveway, they line our whole property. Whoever owned this property before us went around and planted little 2 or 3 foot tall Rose of Sharons everywhere. And so now we have these full-grown Rose of Sharons all over the place, and these things procreate like crazy. I have little trees coming up all over the place. I mow them in the springtime. I have so many Rose of Sharon trees coming up. So that's another one. If anybody's interested in little saplings or seedlings or anything you see in the yard, really, if you're interested in it, you can check my email and I can dig cuttings up, or dig little rootlings up or whatever. I'm always happy to help people get started with some cool, exciting new plants for their garden. So not a lot to talk about here. We've already mentioned everything that's going on. Just have a look at it. The caladiums are looking nice and good. We find that the deer are giving us a lot of problems with their hosta this year, and caladiums do not. I'm sorry, these are not caladiums. These are no, these are caladiums. I'm getting my it's always coleus. I always get coleus and caladium confused, and these are the caladiums, and this is what a coleus looks like if you're not familiar. These are coleus. All of these are coleus. So if I get coleus and caladium mixed up, I do know the difference. I always just get those names confused. So caladium's looking good. Got them all over. I think my wife bought like a big 150 pack of bulbs for like $20 or something, and we just have them everywhere now. With a little bit of luck, I'm going to be out on that in about an hour. Just everything over here looking good. These huge daylilies are kind of winding down. And I told you I've got those tiger lilies everywhere. So we will go up and around real quick, see if anything is going on up here. I haven't actually been up here in the last day or two. Had some raccoons visiting last night. We bought a trail cam to put out at night so we can see whether any raccoons or possums or whatever come up to the door. And then of course I want to position it in various places in the garden and try to get an idea where the deer are moving through the yard and how they're moving through the yard. If I know where they're moving, it helps me prevent them from doing the damage. See, I got more Rose of Sharon. Actually, these Rose of Sharon along here I planted once we got this bed established. This whole bed didn't exist when we moved out here. All this stuff along the whole top was not here. These bushes were here, and that was it. And then all this other garden bed we've done ourselves over the years. In fact, when we moved out here, this little garden area was the only garden that we first started looking at. That rock garden area, the tiered garden, was the only part of the garden that existed when we moved out here. They had patches of stuff, like you can see the way stuff's planted around this tree. They had a few of these. They had a few areas where some trees had fallen, and they planted some hostas around the tree stumps and that sort of thing, and that was about it. All the other stuff, all the other beds and everything, we've added ourselves since we've been out here. And you can hear that chattering noise off in the distance. That is our annual cicada. That's the cicadas that come out every year. And those are the harbingers of the end of summer. When you start hearing those cicadas going, it's usually around the time the crepe myrtles are starting to bloom. And when you see the crepe myrtles starting to bloom, you know the summer is winding down. I know we're still in July, but we're actually at the end of July. It's going to be August after next week. And then we're moving into the dog days. So we'll have to wait and see. Weather's been so weird so far this year. I don't even know what to expect once we get to the dog days. Typically, I would know what to expect. Hot, dry, grass turning brown, having to water every day. But this year, who knows? We might get to the dog days and find snow showers or something. Wouldn't surprise me. So not a lot new going on over on this side of the yard. I think everything that flowers over here is pretty much flowered. It's mostly just hosta and astilbe that do the flowering over here. And you can see all this astilbe. This is way done. There's a little tiny bit of purple left in that. That's pretty much the last of the flowers on the astilbe. And again, you can kind of see the last little gasp of the hostas fading away. But that's fine, because this garden has never really been about the flowers. This one's more about the foliage. It's just nice and green and lush. And I actually like the sort of pre-flower look in a garden. Once upon a time there was no flowers. Ferns and things like that procreated by other methods, spores or what have you, and then sex got invented and flowers came along. And so then the whole world looked very different. So if you can set up a garden that has non-flowering plants, it almost looks primordial. All the different types of ferns and lichens and, you know, all just the stuff that grew from way back in the day. And so even if you've got newer stuff like these flowering hostas and everything, if you've got the garden set up to where you don't see a ton of flowers in there, it can still give that very sort of primordial feel. You can almost, you know, imagine you see some dinosaurs creeping out of the bushes here and there. Now, I'm not quite to that extent with this garden, but that is the idea of having a sort of non-flower focused garden, having more of the foliage and everything be our focus. So I still got some work to do. You can see we still got stuff to put in the ground. Still got some, you know, new azaleas we haven't even planted. That azalea did make it into the ground, but that one still needs to get planted. We still got that's catnip, so we don't need to plant that catnip. That can stay in that pot. But this planter, this hosta, needs to get planted. And that's about it as far as I can tell. Got some stuff over here that still needs to get finished up and put in the ground or whatever. It's end of July and we're still we're still tinkering with getting stuff in the ground and planting things. And last, I will leave you with this. Another hydrangea that we've had for, well, it was here when we moved in 20 years ago, and we've seen a flower or two on it over the years, hit or miss, but it's never really done much. So the fact that it now looks like that, and we're getting once again these beautiful purple flowers all over it, is pretty exciting. And then of course you can see all the flowers, Rose of Sharon, Rose of Sharon, Rose of Sharon's everywhere. There's a other view of some of the planters up on the porch. My composter, that's where I keep my generator in case of power failures. And now we are back to those amazing, beautiful lilies. All right, everybody, that was my Saturday morning yard tour. Hopefully I will be out on the water again this afternoon, so let me know what you think about my yard tour videos. Let me know what you think about the kayaking videos. I'm still sort of getting my feet under me on this new channel, and any feedback from anybody as to what types of videos you like to see, where you like to go, whether you like me to narrate, whether you like me to be quiet, etc. All that feedback helps, so feel free to let me know what you think about my new outdoors videos. So thanks for watching this one. Hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you real soon in the next one.